Thanks for joining us, everyone. We're going to give you a short update from our joint managers here, as we haven't really spoken since the game from Dartford. So joining us for a short interview is joint managers Neil Baker and Jon Underwood. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen.
No problem.
No problem.
How are you both? Did you have a good Christmas?
Yeah, reasonably quiet one, as I think most people did. Just immediate family and for the day. And then, other than that, been going for lots of walks and buying takeaway coffee, which seems to be all my days consist of at the minute.
Yeah, similar. Been very quiet, but yeah, it's just boring, isn't it? Let's be honest.
You've at least been on your bike.
I've been on my bike. I've been out on my bike a lot, so that's a
bit of me to shame.
I'm sure there must be an incriminating photo somewhere, Neil, of you in your lycra.
No, never been one.
I'll see what I can dig out, Aid.
Well, we do need some intros for the game, so anything that's suitable we can use.
Nothing suitable with me.
Neil, obviously your Christmas has been a little bit different from past years because of the situation with your dad.
Yeah.
You made the decision to walk away, which is obviously the right decision, especially now with how it's going on. How is your dad, first of all?
Yeah, that's doing well. He's going through chemotherapy at the moment. He's got another 2 courses to run, which will take him up to the end of January. And that's sort of where I'm hopefully, going to be sort of, coming back. But obviously it's going to depend on how dad is. I had to make the decision with the increase in sort of infections and whatever else that I couldn't risk passing it on to my dad. The type of cancer that my dad's got and the operation he'd had recently means he's highly vulnerable, and I just could never forgive myself if I mistakenly took it back into his house, because I've been sort of going between my house in Farnborough, the football club, and to my dad's in Fakenham. He lives on his own, and he needs to be taken to the hospital to have his chemotherapy, and that's what I've been doing for the last sort of 2.5 months. So yeah, it was a relatively easy decision, if I'm honest, in the end. I don't think the league were going to be doing anything anytime soon, and I had to make a decision for the best of him, really, and myself and Jon, and obviously the steering committee. We had a long conversation about it, and from my point of view, whilst I won't be there on match days and on training days, myself and Jon will still be talking about the team and picking the teams, and I'm still heavily involved. I'll be watching all the streaming games. I just literally can't be there in person at the moment. So.
Well, of course, Jon's not a bad manager on his own, is he?
I think his record's pretty good. I think my record's pretty good. So maybe actually the way we started the season, we should just keep it like that. So.
And Jon, how easy was it for you though? Because obviously, your right hand man, the two of you talk a lot.
Well, we've not actually had a game yet, have we? We've not had a game since the decision, but so it's not been an awful lot different. I mean, I obviously 100% support the decision. I know Keith very well myself, and also only want the best for him. So it was the right decision, and we've got a good sort of senior dressing room, I would say. It's not like we've got a team of kids who need lots of support, lots of guidance, and we've got some strong characters. So just look for them to step up. It may be that when we do get back to games, is involve somebody on a match day, just have another sort of pair of eyes and ears on the touchline, someone to run things past. That's a possibility. Martin Nisbet actually sort of did that when Bakes missed the game at Havant. And he wasn't playing that night. He was injured. He did a great job supporting me that night. So it's the training is very much driven by Lee Togwell. So it's we'll make do. It's not the same. It won't be the same. Bakes is a big character in the dressing room, but we'll make do, and hopefully it wouldn't be too long before things get back to normal.
And Neil, you had, when it was announced, you had a lot of messages of support, not just from Slough fans, but from non-league community, people that your dad had played with as well. So that was good to see.
Yeah, it's been a real tonic for my dad as well, to have some of the messages, private messages, and even for myself, it's it's never an easy situation you put into. Obviously, loads and loads of people are put into it, and you just have to try and deal with it. So, but no, it's been fab. There's some brilliant people in non-league football, and having been involved for however many years, and obviously my dad having the career that he did in non-league football, you get to know a lot of people. So he's had a lot of support from people within the game, and that's a real, as I said, a real tonic for him.
And obviously the issues with COVID and the tiers kind of pushed your decision. We haven't played since Dartford. It's tough, isn't it, out there? Because what can you tell players to do and not to do? Because I know we've got a case at the moment, but how hard is it for players to live a life working, plus do football, plus their normal lives?
I mean,
it's very difficult. I mean, that we can't dictate what they do every minute of every day. We obviously ask them to use their common sense in what they're doing. And when they're at football, when they've been at football, we do everything we can to make sure they're as safe and protected as possible. But I think you've only got to see what's happening in society in general at the moment. The cases going through the roof. It's going to hit football as well, and it has. I think in the last week or so, I think we've seen a real change. I think in the months going up to Christmas, we were losing 1 or 2 games potentially at a time in a full program. And the last 2 match days has been 3 out of 10 that have been played, and so you're now seeing it in the lower levels of EFL and Man City. No bigger club than them, and they've had the issues as well. So it just goes to show all the precautions you can put in place, and it's not completely safe. It's been really difficult. It's really stop-start. We've obviously had games affected, had games called off. And then we've come back to play, and then we've been off again, and obviously we're off again now, and I just can't see it changing, particularly in the next month or so. I really can't, and I think we're reaching a point where there's got to be some decisions taken, because I don't think it's sustainable to carry on with 3 games at a time. We're 10 games in ourselves, 30 to play. And our next game is going to be kind of second week of January. So it's very difficult. It's very difficult, I think, as well for throughout this. It's been difficult for the people making decisions, whether that be National League, FA, whoever it may be, government. Very, very difficult, and we'll never say it's anything but that. It's a really difficult situation. I think the complaints we've had so far have been sometimes around communication and speed of communication. And I think we're at a point now where we really need to know what's going on from a number of points of view, from a safety point of view and also from a funding point of view. Bakes, you can jump in. I'm sure you.
Yeah, I think the difficulty is as Under says, that all the precautions are put there, and we try and do everything properly. But you can't stop people's emotions. You can't stop people's habits. Even sometimes you don't even think about it, and you go to whether it's shake a hand, do a fist pump, or a perfect example, scoring a goal. We score a goal and you've got your whole team congratulating each other, hugging each other, and unfortunately, when you're not doing any testing and anything like that, which the National League isn't doing, the clubs haven't been told that they need to do, then we're in a no better place than step 4, step 3, step 5, step 6. We've all got the same issues, the possibility of the transmission of COVID, and yes, for most people it's not a huge deal, but try telling that to the people who've lost family members and stuff like that throughout the country. So it's a really difficult situation, and as Anders has alluded to, you've still got the problem of the funding situation. There's lots of arguments over the first tranche of money, who got what, who didn't get what. There's talk of a few clubs that are going to take legal action against the National League, and we're what, 3 days away from January, and we have no idea whether there's any funding, what the funding is, whether it's a loan, whether it's a grant. You've got all the COVID situations. It's an absolute nightmare for clubs, for the leagues. But I'll be brutally honest, you know, I've said it from day one. I felt that the league would really, really struggle to get completed, or at least to have any sort of semblance of normality. I was convinced that most of the non-league wouldn't happen, and I think I'm going to be right. And I said that before a ball was kicked, and people will say, well, you haven't had a great start, and you know, I don't really care about that. We're 10 games into a season where we've got 30 left. You know, we've predominantly got a side that made the playoffs last year. I'm pretty confident that we've got no worries or concerns about getting relegated this season. You know, it's purely a footballing decision, I think, and it's let's be honest, football has been rubbish, absolutely rubbish without fans anyway. And I still think that until that comes back, you know, I don't believe that football should necessarily be going at our levels. I'm sure Anders is probably in a similar sort of boat with me, really. But I know there'll be lots of people that do want it to continue, and that's absolutely fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinions, I think. But from a point of view at the moment, I just think that the way the country's going, the restrictions that are put in place on everything, I just can't see how it can continue.
Without getting too political, are you both surprised that, you know, bearing in mind that we're almost in the same situation we were back in March, April, where in theory we are under a lockdown and there was no sport played, but we still seem to be playing sport just for, in theory, the sake of it, like you say.
That's it. I mean, we were pushing obviously to get back to playing when we did, and we were pushing for fans to come back in, because at that point things seemed to be going the right way in the country in terms of infections and the R rate and all the other indicators they look at. Things look to be going the right way. I mean, the reality is supporters stood on the terraces are actually safer than players at the moment. You're safer on the terrace than you are in a changing room. That's obvious, because you're outside, socially distanced and in the fresh air. But things have changed. Things have changed massively more recently in the month or so leading up to Christmas. I didn't think we would be, you know, I knew things would get worse in the winter months. I didn't think we would be right back to where we are. And we are, you know, people have different opinions on it, but we are roughly where we were back in kind of April time. And no one was even thinking about playing football then, and certainly without any testing in place. So I think as managers, one of your key responsibilities is welfare of your players, whatever form that takes. And this is one where we are trying to look after our players. I don't want a player to get COVID, and it will happen. I don't want players to get COVID on our watch. I don't want them to go and infect a relative who might potentially die on our watch. That's, you know, we have to look out for our players. And yeah, as Bakes mentioned, I think a few people have said, oh, it's because you've not had a great start to the season, you don't want to play. I mean, I've loved being back at football. It hasn't been the same, but I would be lost without getting out of the house 3 times a week to football. Bakes is right. It's not been the same. We speak to lots of managers and they say the same. I think there's very few managers that are truly enjoying football at the moment. Maybe someone like a Danny Robinson at Hungerford, who are riding the crest of a wave. I'm sure he doesn't want to stop. But even some of the managers up near the top, you know, we speak to people like Paul Doswell, Steve King. You know, I'm sure they've both said not enjoying it one bit. It's not the same. So yeah, I've kind of forgot where I got to this now. I've kind of gone round in circles, but it's our responsibility to look after the players, and we have to say and do these things. I know the club last week was very proactive in raising their concerns to the league, which pleased myself and Bakes, because we don't want to be a club that just sits there and does what they're told. If we don't believe in what we're doing, we have to raise a head up and say what we feel. And I was pleased that the club did that last week. It hasn't made much of a difference at the moment, and I think some clubs agreed, some clubs have disagreed. We'll have to see what comes in the next week or so.
And it's not like clubs aren't doing their best. Obviously, we see it behind the scenes at Slough. we see it behind the scenes at the other clubs that we've been to so far this season. There are a lot of procedures put in place, a lot of things totally different to how it normally is, and there's not much more that the clubs can actually do, is there, on a match day?
What I would say is some clubs, every club's working hard to make it safe. I'd say the different environments we've been in are not always the same. You know, I think when we're at home, we give up 2 changing rooms. We change in like the club room, which is a big space. We've been to other clubs where we've just been given a tiny dressing room, just like we always do at those grounds. And so I don't think I'm not sitting here accusing anybody, but it is different. Not every club is the same. And I think some clubs' policies and the work they've put in has made their stadiums safer than others potentially.
And I'd also go as far as to say, you know, there's other clubs that do the behind the closed doors, and you know, we've been to one club in particular this season whereby, you know, there's probably 200 people in the main stand. You know, it's you know, I'm not going to name names, but so every club is doing their own thing, and you know, everyone's trying their hardest. That's the key. Everyone is trying their hardest. Everyone is trying their best. But we're in a situation where pretty much every industry is affected. You know, why is football any different? You know, football isn't any different. It's a really, really difficult situation. We would love nothing more than to be finishing our season with people, you know, with our fans and whatever else, and where we finish is that's sort of irrelevant at the moment. Do you know what I mean? It's about, but from a point of view, do I see us being able to do that? I don't think so. Can I see our fans being in to watch us this season? I can't see it. I just can't see it. Not with how things have gone in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think it's just been amplified, and I think there's some big decisions for the National League, the FA, the EFL. I think there's some big decisions to be made, and it's going to be quite interesting. I don't know. You know, obviously we've still got the funding issue as well. You know, that's a key thing. You know, that's not sorted out yet. How do you budget as a club? How do you move on, not knowing what you might get in, because we haven't got anything coming in through the crowds, through the gates. You know, no secondary spend. And the other thing is what's going to happen below us, step 3, step 4. You know, they're classed as non-elite and whatever else, whatever that means. But then I can't even see how they're going to get going again. It's going to be very difficult.
I mean, it's not going to be easy for anyone who makes the decisions, but I'm not sure if you watched the game last night between Hampton and Dulwich. It was the first time that Hampton had played in 21 games. And there was
21 games?
21 days, sorry, yeah. But there was a few tackles that were mistimed, and it just seemed that there was maybe a lack of match fitness that you would have got if there wasn't a break in football.
I mean, I can't really comment on that, because who knows? You know, we're going to be, I think our game against Hampton's going to be off, because obviously we have a positive case in our changing room now. So we are all in isolation now. Unfortunately not, because I wasn't at training last Tuesday. Fortunate decision for me. But we're in isolation now. So I think our next game is the 9th of January, which is Dulwich. And our last league game would have been the 9th of December against Havant and Waterloo. So that's a whole month without playing a league game, which is crazy. So it's nigh on impossible to organise. You know, we're sitting there. You know, our players can't do anything for the next 10 days. We will probably get 2 training sessions in before we play Dulwich, subject to whatever happens, and it's really, really difficult.
From a footballing point of view, it's, if you take away everything that's going on and you just look at results and performances and everything else, purely think of the football, it's actually really frustrating, because we know we've not had a great start. We felt like we were slowly turning the corner. We got the draws at Chippenham and Havant, and then we felt we played really well against Dartford in the trophy, certainly for 70 minutes until they scored. Felt we were the better side for 70 minutes, and Obviously, we know what happened. We lost on penalties, but we felt we were building some momentum in turning it around. And literally after that game, all our injured players were coming back for Boxing Day. I think we had a fully fit, clean bill of health for Boxing Day. What we haven't been able to do now is kind of build on that hard work, which is what it's been to kind of turn it around and stop the run of defeats. And yeah, it just makes it difficult, the stop-start kind of nature of it. And it will work for some people in certain situations and it won't work for others. And it doesn't always create a level playing field for various reasons. I know Hampton was saying, obviously, they played Boxing Day, then had to play 2 days later, but Dulwich didn't have to play because of a COVID issue at Welling, I think. So they came into that game yesterday fresh. So all sorts of stuff going on that just makes it, the weirdest season on record.
I'll take your cue there from the fact that you're talking about the players. Obviously, since the last time that we spoke, the news is that Matt Lynch has moved on. Last season, he was the player of the season. Fantastic performances. This season, he's not scored as many, but still put in some fantastic performances. His performance at Chippenham and Havant were outstanding. Is it just as simple as that if we'd have been in the National League, he would have stayed with us? He wants to make that move up? Yeah.
I mean, he's made no... he hasn't hidden his ambition to play in the national Prem. I think, he had the opportunity. It came up in the summer. Wealdstone got in touch with him, spoke to him in the summer. We had long conversations with him. I think then there was the funding issue, and Wealdstone sort of pulled away from it. And Lynch agreed to end up signing with us again, but we almost lost him in the summer. I think that they've obviously had the extra funding, being at the national Premier level, and they've been able to come back in, and they put in a 7-day approach. And as soon as they did, myself and John, we knew that we were probably going to lose Lynchy, and we had no issues with him whatsoever. It's purely a decision that he wanted to play at that level, and you can't begrudge anyone that. He wasn't under contract. We've made a point of not putting many under contract this year because of the uncertainty and whatever else, and not sort of putting a massive liability on the club, really. So listen, Lynchy, absolutely fantastic last year. Thought he was brilliant last year. I personally don't think he's been quite to his levels from last season this season. I think he'd say that himself, but as he said, he's still had some really good games. But I wish him the utmost best, at Wealdstone, and I hope he goes and does really well there, because he's a great lad. He's a unique character. Lynch, he's very different to probably your most your footballers that you have. But he's a cracking guy, really, really nice guy. He's somebody that I would always stay in touch with, and as I said, wish him the best.
Yeah, absolutely. We made him our manager's player of the year last year. Obviously, that shows what we think of him. And yeah, I mean, he's in the category of a Dobbo and a George Wells. Those lads, wanted to test themselves at the level above. And when that chance comes, like it did recently for Lynchy, I think you take it, and we'll never begrudge that. I think it's sometimes if you lose a player to a club in your league, throwing them an extra 50 or 100 quid, that's when it sometimes hurts. But it doesn't hurt when they go higher. He's been a good servant to the club. He's played a big part in our successes that we've had in recent years. So, yeah, we all genuinely wish him well. And it comes at a time where we are getting players back from injury, and we do have good options in the squad. So it's not going to be something that we'll panic about. We're comfortable with the squad that we've got. Obviously, if things do go back to normal and we're playing Saturday, Tuesday, as the fixtures will say we're playing Saturday, Tuesday. We'll see if that happens. If it does, the squad might be tested and we might need to add somebody. But I think we're a lot of questions to be answered before we get to that stage.
And John, can you give us a quick update on the squad, as you've been with them mostly and a bit more than Neil? So the likes of Max, Cam, that are injured, and Ben?
Yeah, all back in training. Mark Nisbet. So we trained on the 22nd, the Tuesday before Christmas. Everybody trained. Mark Nisbet had the hamstring problem. He was fine. Ben Harris picked up a groin problem at Chippenham. He was fine. Cam back from his ankle. So literally everybody. Max had an ankle problem that he was playing through, but it wasn't right, and he needed some rest, and we've given him that rest. So
you got Jack McKnight.
Jack McKnight has got an ongoing kind of sciatica problem, but again, we're able to sort of manage his load in the past month. He may well be looking at maybe an operation in the summer, maybe an injection that he may have just to help that situation. But he's been, he's available to be involved. So yeah, we're kind of ready to go when that next game comes. Obviously, match fitness is another thing, but yeah, in terms of being injury free, touch wood, unless there's any accidents in the home, someone dropping them something on their toe or something, we should be all good for the next game.
Excellent. Let's finish up. We know obviously that we're missing fans, and the fans are missing football as well. Have you two got a message for the fans for maybe New Year and just for their spirits a little bit?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously wish everyone a happier New Year than 2020. No, I mean, I look forward to next year. Hopefully, with the vaccine and positive news, that we can get back to doing what we all love doing, and that the fans can join us. So we obviously we miss so many people. You miss talking to people, you miss seeing people, and you miss the day-to-day feel of a match day. And we can't wait for that. And as I say, stay with us. It's hard, when you can't properly engage with the club and whatever else, and but we just urge people to stay with us and ride it out with us, and and hopefully we can see you in the new year.
Yeah, absolutely. I never realised how big. Everyone knows the supporters are important, but this has really brought it home. It's just not the same without. And I think the last game we had with fans was Weymouth away, wasn't it, Bakes?
Yeah.
Probably our least enjoyable game.
No. You had Havant away. You had some fans at Havant.
Oh yeah, Havant. We did play down at Havant. You're right. Before that, it was Weymouth. Not one of our most enjoyable games in terms of interaction with fans, shall we say? But we missed them. I'd even like to see that guy that we fell out with on the day.
About
that. Same as Bakes. Obviously, we wish everyone well. We hope everyone's keeping safe. We know it's difficult because I know our hardcore supporters, Slough, getting to a Slough game means everything, and it's so sad that they haven't had that opportunity. So we'll all pray together that it won't be too much longer. Happy New Year, everybody, and let's hope it's not been a great 2020. Let's hope for a much better 2021.
Brilliant, gentlemen. Thank you for taking the time out to join us to do this interview today. As our managers say to all the fans out there, please, on behalf of Slough Town Football Club, stay safe, stay apart, and please have a fantastic New Year. And hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you all.
Cheers, Dave.
You're right.